Welcome to Into Light, North Carolina's opening reception. I'm Teresa Clower, founder of Into Light, a nonprofit organization that is committed to erasing the stigma of drug addiction through the power of art. Thank you for joining me this evening as we celebrate 41 individuals who have either lived or died in North Carolina from substance use disorder. It's the goal of Into Light's project to eventually hold an exhibition such as this in every state in the country. North Carolina is our second state. We followed Maryland back last fall, and we have shows scheduled in Ohio, Pennsylvania, California, and Virginia for next year. I think the best way to describe the project is for us to take a look at a short video that Ola Carolina recently did. It really speaks to the intent and the origins of Into Light.
My name's Teresa Clower. I live in Black Mountain, North Carolina now. I recently, about 2 years ago, moved from Mid-Atlantic area, the Delaware, Maryland area. Shortly before we moved, my son Devin, who was 32 years old, overdosed on drugs in Baltimore. He died from fentanyl. And my daughter suggested that I attempt a portrait of Devin, just as a way of processing my grief. But I started it, and I worked on his face, his beautiful face. It was actually the last picture that was taken of Devin the night he died. And spent about 3 days, just every little detail of his face was part of this. And when I was finished, I put the drawing away, and I knew instinctively that the last step would be a really hard one. So a few days later, I pulled it out, and I set it on the table, and I signed my name. And it was as if I was saying goodbye to Devin. It was very, very powerful. It's hard as a mom to talk about that because, you know, you miss him, but he's in a better place. He's in a much better place. And this project, I think, has given him a reason for his death, if that makes any sense. Yeah.
As people submit their stories, what it goes to your mind?
There's a lot about the eyes. And those eyes, I have to get them right, but there's a depth to them that I can feel. I can feel I've never gone through anything quite like this, but I can actually feel the energy of this person. And I just live with that. I hold it. I hold it in my heart. I recently did a drawing of a young child. The mother wanted her daughter remembered as a young child. I thought it was going to be easier because she was a young child, and it was a beautiful picture of this little girl with her locket. And when I got into drawing her, I kept thinking about her life and what I knew was going to happen to her. And she had a very, very difficult life. So there was a rapport there that it's something that is not tangible. You can hardly even describe it, really. But there's some kind of an energy, and I honestly believe that my son and all of these people who have passed from this disease are providing me with energy. Their energy is a force, and that's how Into Light was born. That's the whole point of it, to bring forth all of these individuals and say, look, there were people who suffered from a disease, and it is a disease. we hope to define them as people that are, just like all of us, we're made up of light and dark. And no one should be defined by their darkest moments. So because of stigma, less than 10% of people worldwide come forth for help because of stigma. So if you think about that, 10%, less than 10% of the people who need help are asking for it. We've got to get past that. We've got to open this up as a disease. I mean, we have to accept the fact that it is a disease, and no one wants to live like that. My son certainly didn't. No one I've drawn wanted to. And they need the help that society can give them, but they don't need words like addict and junkie and so much of it. And that's a big part of what we're trying to do, is change language, change attitude, bring forth the beautiful side as well as the dark. I'm not going to say that my son was perfect. He was not. But he was a human being like all of us, and he deserved a lot more than what he got.
Oh, as a mother, did you know Devin's struggle with addiction?
Devin was struggling, yes, for many, many years. And when he died, he had just gotten out of treatment. He was living on his own. He was working a full-time job. He was very happy and seemingly on a really good path. And for Dev, it was a perfect storm because he had money. He had a date, which he probably should not have had. He was only about 6 months out of recovery, or into recovery. And he had a car. And so, unfortunately, he was sold drugs laced with fentanyl, which he didn't know, of course. And that's what ultimately he overdosed on. Loving your child and supporting your child is really, really critical. I think a lot of people feel that throwing them out on the street, let them, basically pull themselves up by their own bootstraps, so to speak, is the way to deal with this. And the fact is that Devin could not have managed to get the care he needed. He was so sick. Devin lied, he stole, you could never understand where this, this person was coming from. He wasn't my Devin when he was using, but we stayed with him, and I thank goodness every day that I was able to help him, and he never felt without love. He knew his family was there for him.
Thank you, Ola Carolina. With me tonight, virtually of course, are three very important people to the project. Barbara Francois is our narrative writer. She's also a board member of Into Light. She brings compassion, energy, and an incredible drive to the project. I can't imagine a better partner. April Bragg is our Senior Impact Officer at Dogwood Health Trust. Dogwood Health Trust has sponsored this event, and April has been supportive from day one of the project. Attorney General Josh Stein is a leader and an advocate for those individuals who suffer from substance use disorder, not only in North Carolina, but throughout the country. We're very fortunate to have such a leader in our state. I would also like to recognize at this point the families who have allowed us to portray their loved ones. In some cases, it's the first time that the cause of death of their loved one has been acknowledged. It took a great deal of courage and trust for all of the families to participate. I want to recognize that, for without them, this project would not be. Finally, I have to say that through Devin, my son, and his death, this project was inspired, and Devin's energy continues to fuel it.
Hello, I'm Barbara Fraswala, Intellite Board member and the narrative writer for the 41 people in this exhibit. In the process of writing about the loved ones represented here, I've learned several things. First and foremost, not one of them chose addiction. This disease was not a choice, and as you read their stories, you will find that all of them tried to overcome it. Secondly, every person in this exhibit loved and is loved. They were accomplished, they were admired, and they gave a lot of themselves to others. They left a legacy of caring about people and an example for all of us to emulate. Among the 41 people in this exhibit, there was a combined total of 447 years lost to the disease of addiction. That's an average of 11 years each of struggling to get adequate help, often living with shame, with stigma, and with the judgment that exists around this illness. We have to do better than that. I take a great deal of time writing the narratives, not only because I want them to be an accurate depiction of the lives of the loved ones that have been lost, but also because I see them as a legacy. For years, perhaps generations, these portraits will be viewed, these words will be read, and they will invite conversation and allow the loved one to be remembered and thought about, and they give solace to those who remain. They're evidence that each of these people existed, that they mattered, that they are loved, and that they're not forgotten. It's our hope, by looking at their beautiful faces and hearing their stories, that people will begin to understand that this disease is not a moral failing. It's not a weakness that people gave into. Their portraits show how vibrant and alive each of them were. Their stories share their multifaceted lives and their humanity. I'm honored to be a part of the Intellite family, and humbled by the trust that the family members and friends have given me to help share the lives of their loved ones. In viewing the portraits here and reading the stories of each of these amazing people, we hope that hearts and minds will be changed and the stigma around the illness of addiction will finally be erased. Thank you all.
Hi, I'm April Bragg, and I'm a Senior Impact Officer with Dogwood Health Trust. We are moved and honored to be a part of this incredible event today with Intellite. We have committed $25 million over 5 years to work in Western North Carolina to address substance use disorder. In collaboration with the Office of Attorney General Josh Stein and Secretary Dr. Mandy Cohen's team at the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. And the reason this is so important is because of the human face of this crisis. Substance use disorder is a real problem that affects real people, beautiful people, who are loved and who love others. Today is about them. Today is about their hearts, their dreams, their families. We are here to learn from them so that we can do better, so that we can work together to eradicate this horrible illness. As we hear their stories today, I want to challenge all of us to never forget what their lives meant here on earth. At Dogwood, we are working to invest in communities and partners on the ground who are committed to addressing this issue wholeheartedly, both from a treatment perspective as well as prevention. It is simply part of our mission to dramatically improve the health and well-being of all people and communities of Western North Carolina. The great poet Emily Dickinson wrote, "Unable are the loved to die, for love is immortality." The faces you will see today are the reason we do what we do at Dogwood and the reason that I personally get up every morning to do this work. We are inspired and humbled by them and their families. And we want to thank Teresa Clower and the board of Into Light for the incredible work that they have done to make this day possible, and the families for sharing the beautiful stories we will hear today. Thank you. We are proud and very grateful to be here.
Good evening. I'm Josh Stein, your North Carolina Attorney General, and I want to welcome you to the virtual opening of Into Light, North Carolina. As your Attorney General, a parent, and a person who cares deeply about the human impact of addiction and overdose, I'm honored to be with you all, even if it's virtually, as we work together to recognize the dignity of every human life and erase the stigma that surrounds addiction. Into Light was inspired by an event that's all too common, the death of a loved one to drug addiction. Teresa Clower, founder of this wonderful project, lost her son Devin in February 2018. Like many of you who are working to bring awareness and support to this insidious disease, Teresa has turned her grief into something positive, working with families all over North Carolina who took the very important first step of sharing a photo or some memory of a lost loved one. Teresa and her narrative writer, Barbara Francois, have created this beautiful series of portraits and narratives that show our loved ones as the people they were, both their light side and their dark side. Many people you see in this exhibit were sons, daughters, mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles. They were special and they were loved. As Attorney General, having seen the devastation caused by addiction, I've been very moved by what we're seeing with this project. During the nearly 4 years I've been working to address the opioid epidemic and the disease of addiction, I have met so many parents, brothers, sisters, people who've lost loved ones to this disease. We cannot give up this fight. For the first time in many years, in 2019, we actually saw a reduction in opioid overdose deaths. We were hardly prepared to declare victory, but we were encouraged by this final bending of the curve. But then, as you know, the coronavirus pandemic hit and has changed everything. It sent people into isolation. People lost their jobs. Everyone's routines were upended. All of this has taken a serious toll on our collective mental health and has exacerbated addiction. Preliminary national trends in 2020 indicate that this year will be the sharpest increase in drug deaths since 2016, when fentanyl first swept the nation. This is absolutely devastating news, but it underscores the importance of what you all are doing and that we can never give up this fight. We have to keep pushing because this epidemic is deadly and it doesn't care. I am proud that North Carolina is the second state in the country to host an Into the Light exhibit, and I want to thank Teresa for her courage and vision and all of the families across North Carolina who have contributed their photos and their stories and their loved ones. Thanks to all.
And we're now at the part of the program where we're going to be seeing 41 individuals that make up the Into Light North Carolina exhibition. We're going to see a variety of poses taken from snapshots that were submitted. The portraits include velveteen dresses, hats on frontwards, hats on sideways, tuxedos, tattoos. All of these individuals, and that includes us as well, are made up of light and dark, and all the shades of gray in between. And no one should be defined by their darkest moments. Celebrate with me the people that you will see, and I invite you to spend time looking at them and reading their narratives. So now, the Into Light North Carolina exhibition.
Devin Hart Bearden. Vanessa Marie Abbott. Michael Scott Carter. Dean Ryan Cox. Gavin Lynn Cox. Lucas Anthony Crawford. Megan Nicole Davies. Sam Jonathan Davis. Cara Jean Leone DeCosti. Joseph Richard Foote. Tanya Marie Harmon. Leighton E. Holliday. Michael Neal Hoyle. Joel Branch Hudson. Samuel Johnston. Sean Joshua Kay. Joel Kagan McInnes. Thomas Cushing Moorfield, Jr. Catherine Grace Moses. Alexander Robert Nichol. Michael Lee Oliver. Eric James Olson. Timothy James Parham. George Rhine. Vincent Enzo Rodenwald. Melissa Louise Sandstrom. Samantha Hope Saunders. Kaylin Robert Sender. Matthew Matt Shires. Timothy Smith. Parker Ross Stevenson. Dakota R. Strickland. Jason D. Stutz. Clayton DeWitt Suggs. Katie Lee Thomas. Adam James Vernus. Thomas Ward. Daniel Van Whitaker. Michael Cameron Whitson. Timothy James Willett. Josh Wilson.